What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you for another week of Every Day We're Covering, and we're through week 11 of the college football season. We will get to our picks and recap, kind of a half and half bag for us this week in our picks, and then we'll talk about some fun games that happened this past weekend. Of course, recap the two squads we follow, and also we will get to some of the juicy matchups coming up for week number 12. SJ, certainly definitely a couple of games that were very, very entertaining here this weekend. We had a pretty good slate, I think, from top to bottom, I thought, throughout the day, of at least something that was entertaining to watch.
Oh, for sure. And again, the unexpected was there again. So that always makes things fun, as long as you're, that's not your squad that got the one. If you're not following the team that got sniped, then that's not a good thing. But that's what we know is going to happen. And it's, the regularity is makes it an entertainment value, at least. And, I don't know where you're sitting on this deal, but I gotta be honest, I'm not really missing those ESPN channels all that much. Went old school and nabbed an antenna. We're able to watch some of those ABC games. And I mean, honestly, unless it comes back on, I probably won't seek it out. We can, we don't have to get into detail here, but I know a lot of people have been talking about that, and it seems like there's a lot kind of that have felt that same way. It's like, I guess I didn't realize that I don't watch ESPN as much as maybe I thought, besides the live games. And I kind of knew that, but I didn't want to lose the live games, but obviously there's been a way around it. That's been nice. Yeah.
Find, adapt and persevere. And I appreciate people that have made it a point to do that too. Not just give in and do it's the easy thing, to give in and jump to other service or whatever, or pay them their direct thing for the new service they have, or, of course, one of the entities that you could jump to, they own. So it's kind of like, find a way not to feed the beast, so to speak. And, let's kind of, stick it to them for once, instead of the consumer being the one on the wrong end of the stick. And I think it's nice. People have definitely been trying to do that. I think it's been pretty widespread.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's the trick to it. You got to kind of read the fine print and see who's, who's in charge of these. Because even though the name might not sound like it's part of the other one, a lot of times they're in cahoots, if you will, or it's just an off-brand of them. But then the other thing that was, we'll get to this later as far as how the game went. But I love those after dark games. We make plays on those a lot. But when you're actually it's your team playing after dark, it's a little tricky to, I didn't have a problem staying awake. Not that part, but winding down. I think I'm still kind of recovering. That's a little bit different. Those 8 o'clock kickoffs when you're in, because. Of course, if you're kicking it off at 8 o'clock and you're probably from where that team's from, it's like, well, it's only 6 or 7. It's typical time. But when you're, when you're changing two time zones there, and you're, game ends at 11, and I don't know. Some people just can do it. I just can't. Like how at least an hour to wind down, even if I'm just casually watching usually or just whatever. I don't know how people just go right to sleep. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. But I think I've almost caught back up. I know. To where I was before, but today was a little groggy.
Yeah, I understand that. As we get rolling here on the show, we always like to talk about what's fueling us as well here through the podcast with some fine beverages. SJ, what do you got pouring over there this week?
Well, I got something a little different, but it's also from a usual, I guess something that's in my fridge often. Okay. I don't know if you've seen this one, and I actually haven't. Special edition, obviously, but I don't know if they've even done this in the past. But Modelo put out an amber version. Oh. It's got a red label. If you see it, it's like a red bottle with gold kind of Christmassy edition. Ah. But it's I don't know, just call it Noche Especial, but it is a freaking an amber version of the Modelo. And of course you ain't going wrong, because honestly, when I was looking, I kind of just wanted something. I was like, I don't know if I want to go too crazy tonight. I was just thinking maybe, porter stout, I was like, I can go a lager or whatever. I was just looking, and I was like, oh, Modelo's good. I haven't had this Modelo. I'm going to go with that. So yeah, you would, I know you're kind of an amber guy yourself, so you definitely would, you'd appreciate this one. So you can find it on your local shelves, and standard, like $10 a 6-pack. So they're doing you right always. So
nice. Yeah. Yeah, I always appreciated the Negra Modelo. That was kind of always my go-to. I guess I kind of like it better than just the original. But that's a nice little wrinkle in the belt there. I'm gonna have to find that one out. I kind of the same way here. I've got something new, but it's from a usual suspect as far as the brewery is concerned. And I saw this actually, I think I must have saw an ad somewhere online, and you thought, oh, hey, that's something different. So I'm going to have to try to track that down. And it just so happened I stumbled across it the other day. I've been actually looking for the pack, but I found it in a 6-pack by itself. So I went ahead and grabbed it and tried it. Sam Adams is doing one this year called the Winter White Ale. It's just a little bit something different. I mean, they've done similar type beers before, maybe just called it something a little bit different. But this one is supposedly like a, new recipe, limited seasonal thing. And it's supposed to be kind of a spiced and citrusy mixed, a little bit of a blend with the orange peel, and then these, throw in the holiday spices like the cinnamon and the nutmeg, kind of like, well, a little winter warmer, so to speak. You get sometime.
Well, antifreeze, there you go.
Yeah. Not bad. I kind of like it. It's not, I don't know, out of the different styles that, you would maybe turn to during winter. I wouldn't say my favorite, but it's a nice little mix-up. Definitely, if you're into that spice taste, for sure, like the nutmeg, cinnamon stuff, you can really tell it's there. So if you like that stuff, it's definitely that kind of holiday feel to it. So it's an interesting beer in the rotation.
Since you ripped off the Band-Aid with the holiday talk, I'll go ahead and I haven't cracked this one open yet, but it's chilling in the in the coming days. I'll probably plan on doing that, but I don't know if you're an eggnog guy or not, but I'm here and there. I'm not a lot, but I'll get in the get it crazed, and then I'll slow down for a couple weeks, and I'll pick it back up towards Christmas. But Evan Williams did one with it's a peppermint white chocolate. Ooh. So that was kind of what sold me. I was like, it's a little early for eggnog, and then I saw the flavor because it was just the standard one. Then I saw they had this flavor. I was like, I'm gonna have to go ahead and do an Irish coffee with that here soon. So that will be the plan, and I'll report back here next week. That'll be my homework for the week.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I'll at least get one down, if not a couple.
Okay, yeah, appreciate that. That does sound delicious. That'd be a good one. I did over the weekend also drink some of the traditional Sam Adams Winter Lager, if you've had that before, and I really like that one. That one's just like kind of an easy drink. So I would say I prefer that one over this one, but this is definitely a nice little mix-up in the bag. So that's what we're pouring here this week. Hopefully you've got something fun and interesting, and as always, again, let us know if there's something you needed us to try or want us to try, or you found a good one. I want to know all about it, and so we can get it in our repertoire. Let's dive into our picks here this week, and of course this will lead us into talking about some fun games as well, as it always does. But had some ones that were pretty darn good picks this week, and then some that just maybe came up a hair shy. It was real close. So overall, I guess I felt pretty good about the weekend, just because I think the picks were pretty good. Just you didn't get a point here or there on a couple of them, and that's not that much to be upset about. But we'll get into it here. The first one that started it off, and again, the old going with the game involved with the Memphis Tigers seems to be working on Friday nights, and this one almost got to the total at halftime. They needed to get to 54.5, and I'm watching them like, holy crap, it's like 21-14, and it's like 6 minutes left in the first quarter. I'm like, this is going to be fine. They got to 70, 38-32. Tulane actually won the game, so good thing I didn't think about the line, because I probably would have leaned towards Memphis. But, a fun game. It was entertaining for sure. Lots of points. If you like offense, you loved it. And that was a good one to start off the weekend. So got things rolling right there. And then,
that's more of what you think with those type of league is what we've been. That's what we were in the past accustomed to, but it hasn't happened this year. So that was probably why a little bit of maybe didn't go as heavy on your confidence, but it was still a nice play, and that's kind of been the standard operating practices with teams like as such. But we play the overs on that, and then they end up being 20-17. We're like, what the hell happened? So that was nice to see them kind of getting back to more that's typical football. That always helps when you're trying to maybe do something a little bit, not so much out of left field, but just a little bit more than your standard Power 4 conference teams.
Yeah. We had a lot of games in the early window too in our picks, and one of them that did go well was I had the SMU laying 11.5 at BC. Started a little bit slow. They were kind of slogging around getting the points going, but then once they did, the floodgates opened. 45-13 ends up being the final, so very comfortable victory there for SMU and an easy cover in that one. always appreciate those. Like you said, when you can turn away and not have to worry about it too much, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, that's a hell of a start there for the, you get two in the bag for the weekend. You're feeling pretty good there. Start looking at maybe some new wheels or something. Start searching the web.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the rest of the day brought me back to reality a little bit because James Madison could not quite get it done. This one was frustrating because they had plenty of chances and to score more points and probably should have won this game by more. Saying that, Marshall did have the ball late driving, trying to score at the end, and they didn't let him, but still, it wasn't enough at the end of the day. 35-23 ends up being the final. So when you're a point and a half away from the damn team covering, you're like, you take your lumps sometimes, and then that was one there where, pretty close, but just couldn't quite get it done.
Yeah, I mean, you're on it. You're just, whatever, like a botch play away, or maybe a field goal or get a late score. So yeah, those ones kind of stinks, but also for me, I'm like, you weren't that far off, so it doesn't make it any easier. But you also you're like, well, I don't feel like a total dumbass for going in on this one. That was you were right there, just a couple points off. Yeah,
same thing went for the Ohio State Purdue game. And again, I mean, I had some trepidation because this is what Ohio State's done. They kind of just slug along a little bit, make it look a little bit ugly, but still comfortably whoop ass. And that's what they did. 34-10 ends up being the final. So they get to 44, and I needed 48.5. So again, when you're 4.5 friggin' points away in a game like that, where easily probably more points could have been put up, more so for me, I guess I thought Purdue would at least get one more score up on the board. And especially the way the game started, they were kind of slugging with them early. Even, sent me a message like, hey, they're kind of hanging around here. And they were. And then all of a sudden I look back 2 minutes later and it's a 2-score game. So it's just crazy how that happens sometimes.
And that's not even really much of an exaggeration. Like when they pulled away quick, Ohio State, that is. And yeah, I would almost banked on Ohio State getting to 40. I guess the issue I'd have thought be like, if Purdue could score it all, and if Ohio State just gets one more in, you're in the clear there. So yeah, same thing as the last one. You're right on it. It's just not quite there. I mean, still an L, but not like, I don't know. It's nothing to freaking, get all, crazed about. It's just sometimes it's just not quite enough.
Yeah. Moving on into your list here, I'm going to save one that was in the early window because it's a fun game to talk about, but we'll move on to the Missouri State. That was a nice pick there for you, and especially if you would have got ballsy and went outright.
That's most, because I mentioned it in the video. I was like, if you're really, and I saw it was kind of leaning that way. I wanted to. I just, you don't. It's tough when you're making that transition, and I know they've played well. They seem like they're kind of found that's a little bit of a trick of it too. Is not always just like, oh, we got to get more money, so we need to move up. It's finding like in conferences these days. That's no easy for anybody. The big schools, let alone one moving up, but to find like a place where you fit in as far as like the style of play, or if you're competitive, you're going to a school that has whatever this much budget compared to you're barely scraping by, then that makes it a little trickier. So I think however they landed in that league, they seem like they're a good fit and they've been playing well. And it's kind of one of those teams you could, I guess it's fairly regional to me, but either way, it'd be like one of those teams you just throw on the TV and you're like, I'm going to root for these guys, kind of like, they could be like a fun story to follow as the years go on, and especially this season. That was a pretty good season. Yeah,
and they've been pesky, for a while before that. Before they made the jump, they were always kind of in games, it seemed like. Of course, they had our boy on his Harley there for a while, with old Bobby Petrino leading the way. And what's cool, I think, about this team too is like they took that lump right at the beginning of the year. It was USC, wasn't it? That I think blew their doors off. And then, now they've settled in. They figured it out after that. So good for them. They win at 21-17 over Liberty. And well, I guess, talk about different directions too, because that was a Liberty team a couple years ago. We're talking about always are they going to sneak into like a playoff talk kind of situation? And it's really fallen down the hill from them since then. So, but yeah, nice win for Missouri State. They were getting 7.5, so easy cover, and they win the game outright. Moving on then to the later portion, disappointment from Florida State. Clemson wins at 24-10. I was with you, SJ, because this is not one you would have saw coming, especially the way the two teams were trending. But somehow Florida State couldn't find a way to get traction in that one.
Basically the exact opposite of how I thought it would happen. I thought Florida State would kind of be the team that, wouldn't think it'd be like impressive or blow them out or nothing, but just comfortably win, and that's what Clemson did. So, once they got as big as an 18-point lead there in the first half, and then Florida State never really threatened them, trying to watch the score and say, oh, here we go, make a play here or whatever. They couldn't get anything going, and I know they've got some injuries here and there, but who doesn't at this point of the season? It seemed to me the trajectory of each team, it seemed at least Florida State was somewhat stabilized, and Clemson had just been kind of like, chaos essentially. But they're able to somehow figure out a way to get prepared for that night. I guess maybe, somewhat of a rival opponent was enough to kind of get them going. But that, talked about the ones that you had earlier where you're like, you don't feel too bad because it's close. Well, this wasn't close. But also the way it played out, I was like, I couldn't really get too invested because it was never really much of a game. Even though it wasn't like a huge blowout score, Florida State was never in it. So you can't really get, that one, just pitch that one, move on to the next one. And at least we ended the night well. But yeah, that was one of those like, well, I didn't see that one coming, and that's on me. I guess I'll just move on.
yeah, that's true. I guess sometimes it is different too when you don't spend that emotional investment, because part of it. Well, and that's why we do it. Nobody does it because we're damn experts. We're going to be rich. There's people that think they're going to do that, but I've met very few of them that's the case at the end of their lifetime. But yeah, you watch because it's fun, and it adds an extra intrigue and interest into the game. And then you start watching it, you get caught up in it, and caught up in each play and the moment. Oh, this was what I need to have happen here, kind of thing. Well, yeah, when they just piss on it from the get go, then okay, well, I'm done with that one. It didn't work out. So that was the case there. There was a fun one though. In that, speaking of the after dark slate, you had your team to watch. You also got a nice win there as well. UNLV. Comfortable whooping of Colorado State, 42-10. This helped me win a little money at the end of the night too, SJ. So I was happy about that. Nice job there by the Running Rebs to kind of do what we thought they would.
Well, and the interesting thing was I thought it was going to be after one quarter at least. I was like, oh, they're down 7-0. We're going to be in for one here because it was a little tricky being like, well, I'm pretty much focused on the Nebraska UCLA game. But I'm still interested in this play over here that we've made. So I gotta, had one eye on another screen there, but very quickly, by halftime at least, it was well in check, and then it was just totally dominated the second half. But that's kind of, I know they've had a little bit of an up and down here the last few weeks, UNLV that is, but that's kind of what I thought they could be this season, at least within that conference. With the exception maybe like Boise, who kind of really put it on them. But other than that. They're right there with anybody, and they should be able to kind of cruise most of these conference games. But I guess kind of in the season here, we got Hawaii might give them a little bit of a push here. That's a 7-3 outfit, so maybe you got some there. But other than that, I think they could be, I guess setting up a rematch here in the conference championship against Boise is what probably is looking like at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So it's that was a good one to end the night. Yeah, and kind of saved my day in total, I guess, because I ended up throwing together a little deal. I had to sweat one out in the second leg of the three, but that one was comfortable there at the end of the night, so that felt good to clean it all up at the end of the day. The other play that you had, I wanted to say this because obviously it was one of the highlight games of the weekend and one of the fun games of the year actually to watch so far, just the way it played out. But Indiana with a wild drive at the end of the game to knock off Penn State 27-24. This was one where you could tell it was kind of going to be a sweated out thing here early. So as far as the play goes, you probably weren't too invested at that point, early on, just seeing how the game was going, because Indiana was laying 14.5, and that's what you needed, and that didn't appear that was going to happen. But it was kind of a back and forth too, because Penn State kind of got going there early, and I even sent you a message like, oh, they're going to be the ones that knock Indiana's dick in the dirt here, and then all of a sudden Indiana got going, and it's like, oh well, maybe they're just going to figure this out at some point. And then I I was watching some other stuff, so I didn't pay attention for a little bit, and then was back to it, and I was like, oh crap, this is a deal again. Like, Penn State's back on it, and of course they had the lead, and then right at the end of the game, and just an unbelievable drive from Indiana. Not much more you can say about it than that, but get a great touchdown there at the end to ultimately be the one that decides it and get the victory, 27-24, keep their playoff hopes alive and their conference championship hopes alive. But sometimes you get these teams, SJ, where they're just having that season, and they find a way to get it done in every single game, and that's what Indiana's doing right now.
Yeah, when it was they go up 20-7 there about midway through the third quarter, and at that point I'm like, okay, we can still get this cover. It's only it's one more score and it's in the bag, and then Penn State goes on that freaking crazy run of just was like pick after pick. They're just freaking out of nowhere, and they're just marching down the field. And so by the time they get within 3 and then end up taking the lead there with about 6 minutes to go, I'm pulling for the chaos, man. Give me that upset. I'm usually not on the Penn State side of things, but at that point I know the cover is not damn near impossible to happen, and why not? It's not a team that I've definitely necessarily cared for. Been rooted, I'm not rooting for that little underdog story, if you still want to call it that.
Yeah, nobody's.
But then you got on that last drive, they made some hell of a catches and throws. So I mean, they won it. Penn State didn't do anything. Was like, it's
not their fault.
That last touchdown catch, particularly, but even before then, there were some sideline catches and Mendoza stood in there and got freaking rocked and just threw lasers, and the receivers were catching it too on top of things. So that's what makes it kind of like, damn, this is they earned that victory. So I know it was ugly and not the way they wanted to play out, but that was still you got to give them, that was pretty impressive, the last drive, how they kind of finished and didn't let that thing go down. But now, man, it's now you see though, I know they've been one of those teams that haven't, but even with a couple of the lower end of the conference opponents here to end the season, everybody's beatable.
Yeah, they're not safe.
They're not. They lost a little bit of that aura, as they say these days. It's a new word apparently, even though it's been around forever. But they're definitely not. Maybe but nobody is, with the exception of Ohio State's been the only one to be kind of like that. But they were as closest to it, and now they kind of fell for those ranks. But still, hell of a victory, and I mean that's what you got to do sometimes. You look back through the whatever year you want to pick, whatever decade you want to pick, and the teams that win it all, there's always a game or two, some seasons where you kind of had to, maybe you just didn't have your A game, maybe somebody was hurt, or maybe somebody just played amazing and you had to kind of claw your way through, and you got to do it, and they did it. So I guess that would be kind of where I'd lean on if I was them, kind of just trying to look at the positive things, because they didn't play that well for most of the game, but when it mattered, they got the job done.
Yeah, and you mentioned the just like ridiculousness of some of that drive, and it started with a sack, and you think, man, they're really screwed. They're way behind the chains, and then it was a play after that. Hit a damn seam route for like 25 yards. It's like, oh, okay, never mind, no big deal. And they hit another one over the middle. Yeah, the one great sideline catch where a guy just gets his foot down, perfectly. And they brought that up too. It's like, also you need certain players sometimes to just be the guy. Well, they had a wide out of the game, so they needed somebody else to step up. This kid who had 7 catches in his history with the program had like a career day. Ended up catching, I think it was 8 by the time he was done. Including that one on the sideline to, help that drive. And then, Mendoza was just nails, every moment he needed to make a good throw, he made it, so that his guy could go get it. And, Omar Cooper, just ridiculous body control at the end there. I mean, he's being pushed out, when I saw it live.
Yeah, there's no way he caught. There's no way, because it didn't seem like there's enough space on the back end, but when they slowed it down.
And even when they showed the replay the first time, it looks like his right foot hits before the left one, but it's because of the angle you're looking at, and his foot's off the ground still. It never hit. And so the other one comes and the toe's in, and it's like, holy crap, that's just like unbelievable. It was
I know,
wild.
like, people freaking blow it out of proportion and stuff, but I mean, in this case, I don't know, because the thing after I was like, oh, it's the best catch I ever seen, but man, that's hard to to argue against. That's something. I mean, that's the best athletes at any receiver at any team. Ask them to just, with nobody out there on air, do that type of catch.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to do it. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe 50, 60, 70, 7 out of 10 or something like that. Yeah. But to do it like when you need and obviously it wasn't fourth down or anything. They would have had another chance. I think, was that third or was that fourth?
I think that was.
I thought it was third and they had maybe one more. But we'll have to look either way. Like, that was just freaking, oh man, like, just to do it in that moment is wild. And yeah, you can't, that's what championship type teams do.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, yeah, and I get too, part of it is just like in any of those moments, because it is such like quick action, like there's luck involved, but like just the wherewithal of the player to reach his legs out like that the best he could, to have that opportunity, was phenomenal.
It was third and goal, but either way, it doesn't take away from how amazing of a catch it was. But so I was like, you still had another chance. But man, that was time was ticking away. So you definitely had to. Yeah, that was a hell of a moment. I mean, I guess, of course, there'll be a little bit of a sour thing if they don't finish the deal here. But either way, that's going to be one of those kind of moments or whatever that like lives on in the history of your program. Whatever happens going forward, it was like, whatever you call it the catch, or I'm sure there'll come up some name for it. Whatever.
For sure.
Like,
Yep. The other part too, and I was going to ask your opinion on this too, and I don't know. At first I wasn't sure, but like, I guess at the end of the day, I actually kind of love it, because it feels like we all know that Gus Johnson is ridiculous sometimes, but it was like the moment finally matched the ridiculousness of Gus Johnson. Like it was perfect, because I mean, if you're just listening to it and you're like a casual fan, you probably are like, this guy's out of his mind. Like, what the hell is this? But like for if you know what he is and like, how he acts, like, it was just like, I thought it was cool. And especially from doing it myself some, like the fact that you could tell that he literally could almost not breathe because he was so caught up in it. Like, I just thought that was really cool. Like, yeah, it was over the top and it was ridiculous, but like I said, I think it finally met the right moment for once.
I mean, I wouldn't say like I like him, but I don't mind so much as like, I'm probably on the opposite of most people that are like, oh, he's terrible. I hate when he calls the games. Now, like a Tim Brando or something like that's when that's like, dude, you need to hang up that microphone. You're a little off pace here, but it's like, to me, it's like, I like the excitement part of it, because that's kind of the whole point of it. It's like, you get to these, people in these, and I don't even remember who it was. I was listening to some random podcast or whatever, and the guy, it was a national writer. I can't remember. It was probably one of those On 3 guys or one of the big entities now, because they're pretty much all the same. But I did kind of, and I don't even read this guy's work or follow him too much or listen to any of his shows, whoever it was, because obviously I can't think of the name. So, but either way, like, he was kind of just describing, like, I mean, I'm a fan, but I'm a professional. Like, I do this job, but my opinion isn't any more valuable than a fan's or anybody else's. Like, it's just, you loved it so much you wanted to do it as a job, and you end up doing it. And I think that's probably the case if whoever announcers, TV, radio, whatever, and people that write, whether, I guess it's mostly online now, but even there's some printed, things still out there. But if you, talk to them, one-on-one, or had the chance to ask them, I think most of them, if they're honest, would kind of say the same thing, where it's, you just love sports so much you want to be around it, and maybe coaching wasn't the way to do it, or weren't good enough as a player to continue on, and so you just want to be involved in it, and that's like one of the next closest ways to be a part of it. So to me, that's how I take it as, and so that's why I like, because he does feel like he like loves being at the games and stuff. Now, as far as like his preparation and all that type of stuff, I think that's kind of maybe over time. That's kind of, but when you get to a certain level, you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want. Yeah. And he's got, even like, someone like on the ESPN people, they might not be that good when it comes to like the actual, what used to be. And now it's like, I don't even know if that's an argument, but what is like an actual, like, required of a journalist in this position, or even just, an announcer in this, what's the actual job? But those days for them are long gone. Now they're just they're being almost like this character. And then they kind of lean into it so much that they forget, like, they actually, do it. I mean, you go back to some old games, and like, he was actually a pretty legit announcer, even on basketball. Like, I mean, he knew his stuff but now it's like, and I don't even know if you want to say this like doesn't, because I think he probably still does put work in, and you still got to do some things and commit to the job, but maybe it's just a different type of energy you put into it instead of like looking at the numbers and really being prepared for that. So I get where you might be mad. The thing that probably I'll like get on that annoys me when I brought up like some of the other announcers is like botching names and not knowing people or they're that like it's like this guy's like when someone made a tackle in the game yesterday for Nebraska, and he's a freaking like 6th or 7th year senior, and he goes, the youngster, and I was like, bro, he's like 26 years old, dog. Like he's not a youngster. Like he just had COVID year and he had 2 medical hardships, and now he's still a good player, don't get me wrong, but it's like he's not a youngster, man. Then there's just other ones where it's like this guy's like a a senior and he's actually like a sophomore, or just stuff. That's the stuff that kind of more is like, that's where I would like be like, that's where I feel like you're not good at your job. But as far as as long as you're not, and like with the freaking, UCLA quarterback, and his name is botched so many times, it's not like he's the only one. So whatever, like I don't, that's in kind of just playing into that. But I've kind of, the games when Gus Johnson, sometimes kind of like it, unless it's like it was like a super meaningful game, then maybe not so much. But like the big noon games, I think he's good on it because you need that kind of energy at that time of day. Because a lot of those games are kind of like blah. Yeah, you need somebody to kind of be. And he gets a little ridiculous, like with the Marvin Harrison stuff a couple years back. Like that was a little over the top. But I think that's kind of that you could probably find that with every announcer somewhat. But he's a little bit crazy, but I don't know. Sometimes I think it's when it's not, when you're not totally invested and you're just kind of watching casually, I think it's kind of fun. But I do understand where maybe some people don't like it. But I'd rather have that kind of crazy over the top than someone just like so like stodgy and kind of just like, just like little bit too, stereotypical announcer with, the hair and the freaking tight suit jacket and all that, and just boring. Like, give me a little crazy over the too stale. If I had to choose between the two, of course, everybody has their favorites and there's probably an ideal template there, but I'm just not I'm not the total like hate when he's on the call, but I do understand he's like an acquired taste for sure.
Yeah. There's a happy medium for sure. And that's why I kind of said, finally met the moment, because sometimes he isn't meeting the moment. He's a little over the top, and I get it. I don't love it either sometimes.
Well, even when Colorado was like on their little run or whatever you want to call that, he got a little heavy into that too, and that gets a little bit too much. At times I'm like, I'm not exactly like, I'm not celebrating everything he's done, but when it's just like the freaking like yelling like a freaking maniac, sometimes I'm like, this is kind of fun. It's ridiculous, but it kind of all is. And when you look at the big picture, it's supposed to be, a game or whatever. I know it's a lot of money involved in all that stuff, but you've got to have I don't think sometimes take a little bit from the coaches on down, just take things a little too seriously. Like, and it's, of course you want to win and that's competitive, but you can still also like, I don't know, smile every now and again while it's going on.
Well, and that's something I learned a lot too, like after starting, because like, you want that level of professionalism, and to be like, you got to be respectful. To me, it's being respectful of the game and the people involved. But then, you got to bring energy to it sometimes too, and you got to meet the excitement of the moment too at times. And when you don't do that, it's kind of funny because, and one of the other reasons I brought it up was because seeing a play like that kind of got my mind sparked, because I was talking to my son later or in the day about how wild. Well, he was watching it with me, how wild this was, and I'm like, that's kind of up there with some of the major plays, and so we're talking about what are the best plays in college football history kind of thing. So of course we went back and watched the kick six Chris Davis return, and to me that almost tops the bill as far as like a single play is concerned. But then I was telling him about, one of the greatest games of all time, as much as I, don't love the university, it was like Texas USC, Vince Young scoring to win the Rose Bowl was like incredible. So I went and I showed him that play where he scored on, and he kind of looked at me, he's like, that was it? And I was like, I don't think you understand though, like what the moment was. Like this was like 4th down, like, and he made it look easy because he was that good at the time. The dude was fast, and then he also made a comment about, yeah, like, well, who's this announcer? Like, he didn't even get that hype because it was Keith Jackson. And I was like, you don't understand though. Like, this is one of the legends of the time. Like, he was good at what he did, but he wasn't wrong though. Cause when I watched it back, I was like, yeah, he didn't kind of like breathe into that moment a little bit. So it's like, you got to find that balance sometimes. It's interesting how, even just a person's reaction can change your view of that moment. Because if you watch the CBS broadcast of the Auburn return, it's one thing, but then you get the radio call from Auburn, and it's a whole different deal. Like it just adds to the moment, I guess.
You should have had him hear Keith Jackson say Lendale White. Then he would have. He would have. Okay, I get it now. But I mean, you're right though. I mean, and it worked for him though because that was like his person, or it seemed like that was his personality. Like that's who he was all the time.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that's probably what I was, maybe getting at there is if it's at least seems because we don't know these people, so they could be totally different in person. And of course, I would hope you were. I hope he's not walking around the grocery store going like Green Beans, just like going crazy. And he might, who knows? Might, yeah. But either way, like if it's as as natural as you can make it seem. Like if that's you, then good. Like that's cool. I'm good with that. It's more of like when like that. And that's what I meant about like kind of the stale when it seems like you're just like kind of putting on like a little show or you just don't. That's not really natural. It's like. To me, like I'd take at least Keith Jackson. That was like, he kind of made knew his like lines and what he's gonna say, and like the big uglies, and bring out the Whoa Nellies and all that. So he had a little bit of personality to him too, just in a different way. Yep. But I mean, even like a Pat Summerall, who was that voice of freaking put you to sleep. But he was good. He knew good. He had all the intangibles. But beyond that, he just wasn't. I mean, of course, the sound was good, the voice sound. Mm-hmm. But as far as like exciting, it wasn't something that's kind of like, oh man, that like I want to watch this. Unless you're a football fan, so yeah, it's more about just I guess kind of the whole package there. How you deliver it, because man, there's plenty of guys that people like that. It's like not my cup of tea, but it's I guess that's why you got different channels, and you can there's always the mute button or just watch the whip around type shows or whatever. But yeah, that's I know that was a big talk though, so I was kind of heard that too of people that were just like, but I think a lot of it is just if you don't like somebody, it's like this is terrible. Like, yeah. I mean, and that's fine, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to like everybody.
Yeah, we all have opinions. That's fine too. It's definitely interesting how it impacts people's remembrance of certain things.
Yeah, I was thinking more about the play. Like I know it was even when it happened, I was like, that was kind of awkward. But I was like, man, did he really catch that? That was, and the more annoying was to me was Klatt as the analyst
I think it was Klatt. Yeah,
I mean, he was more annoying to me. Like the way he was like his freaking high pitched voice, and he's like, did he catch it? It sounded like freaking Jerry Seinfeld or something. I was like, oh my god, shut up! Like and at one point that was one guy I thought like he was actually pretty decent, but. He's kind of gotten to he's trying to go the McAfee route. To me, it seems like he's trying a little bit too much. But I thought, I don't know, maybe that's just, again, personal opinion. But that was more what put me off on the call was him. I think Gus was just doing his usual thing.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Good stuff. The other big games that were fun to watch over the weekend, Alabama beats LSU 20-9. Actually, kind of was like a little bit of a ho-hum game. It wasn't really that much fun. I had it on for a while. LSU, I guess, made it interesting for a half second, and then you're just kind of like, okay, Alabama's just going to win this in ugly fashion. A&M beats down Mizzou 38-17. Of course, part of that too is, and I didn't realize this before they were showing the walk-in, like lead up to the game that it was going to be a different QB for Mizzou, so that makes a difference, obviously. But this A&M team is on one hell of a roll. They're in real good shape here, and they even, I saw the graphic too. Talking about the Elko era. Now he's already won that many games on the road against ranked teams, whereas they've really struggled with that in the past. They seem to have turned around that narrative, at least for this season so far.
That was impressive as, I know, like you said, Missouri had their issues and all that, but still, the dominating fashion that it was. And at one point, it was like, Missouri was kind of making some noise here late and cut it, to 14 and a couple points. And then A&M's like, nah, we're just going to go ahead and get it. And then that kick, did you see the kick, it wasn't even like an onside kick or anything, but how the A&M like kick like kind of like a squib. It was like a high kick. It wasn't even that short. But I don't know. It's like went through the freaking Missouri player's hands and just hit him in the face or something. It just bounced up, and they just caught him. Like, what is? When that happened, I was like, okay. And I think they were up like 31-10 at that point or something, or they were up big. But when that happened, I was like, man, it's just all going their way today.
Yeah.
But that was as far as like this. I mean, the way they won is probably, and I know they were probably, undermanned coming in, and they weren't friggin', they wasn't like they were. Playing like a top 5 opponent or whatever. But when you play the teams that, you're, significantly better than, at least when you're looking at it, on paper, go out and dominate them. That's what you got to do. And they've done that. So by now they've had, typically they've had their slip up, and this would have been like maybe a type of game they would have done it, in years past where we thought A&M was going to be like a legitimate, playoff contender or something like that. And they usually fall on their face. But I mean, it still could happen. Not saying it's over, and that's always a possibility. But they have been pretty impressive so far. And I mean, honestly, it comes down to them in Texas on Black Friday. It looks like because you got a struggling South Carolina team, and then these random weird SEC. You got Samford coming down there on in the 22nd. And then so that could be it'll be a pretty big game there on the 28th of November there against Texas.
Yeah, will be. Yeah, always a fun game regardless. And with a lot more on the line this time. One game that was disappointing, I think, a little bit as far as the game is concerned. Thought the hype around it, though, was awesome. College Game Day goes to Lubbock, and I do got to give a shout-out to the folks down there because they created one hell of an atmosphere. I really didn't watch much of the game. I just saw the photos of the crowd, and I was like, man, that's impressive. They had a good showing, a good electric atmosphere for the game. It was a packed house, and you could tell that they were into it. Fans there from both teams. Turned into kind of a boring game though, because BYU could just not get it going. I mean, they didn't score for 3 quarters, so you didn't feel like they were ever kind of getting their footing and getting any traction. Texas Tech probably had even more chances to score early in the game too, and didn't come up with a couple of times, but did enough. Baron Morton looked pretty good, even though he was playing on a bad leg. You could just tell that was bugging him the whole time. He's kind of limping here and there, but made enough good throws to get them over the hump, and that's a real good win for Texas Tech. They've certainly, I mean, all intents and purposes, they look like the best team in the Big 12, no doubt.
Ugly is the right word, though. That was even on Texas Tech side. Like if they would have had, could have got things clicking offensively, this really would have been over before it was like a big blow. I mean, only scored 2 touchdowns, and luckily they have a good field goal kicker. Otherwise, this could have been a game late. They might have missed a couple of they have 5 field goals. You miss a couple of those early ones, and that was the thing. Like BYU was only a 13-point lead or 10-point lead, then 16-point lead, then 19-point lead. So you're still in it, really. But they couldn't just do it. They couldn't move the ball, and then when they get a play or two here, then there's a fumble or. Then they end up the drive stalls and they got to give it up. So that was I don't think they're both still good teams, but as far as that matchup, it was definitely not good for BYU, or they just had a really bad day because that was hard to watch. I tried to as much as I could, but I was like, man, this is like a stinker. I gotta watch something else. I mean, it's not entertaining at all. And of course, if you win, who cares? I mean, it's entertaining for the winning team, but as someone that's watching for just like I want to see if something worth spending your time on. That wasn't it. Yeah,
and certainly for the Cougars, turned the ball over 3 times too in the game, and that did not help. So that definitely made it a struggle for them. Looking at some other contests that happened throughout the day. One upset that did happen, or mild upset. I mean, this is like not world ending, but Wisconsin knocked off Washington 13-10. You kind of wondered if Wisconsin had it in them to win any sort of big game, and they finally do nip Washington there. They've been making a lot of long treks, of course, the way that's set up now, and I think maybe that caught up to them a little bit. They've been a team that's weird. Like you can tell, like when they're on, and when they're off, and it must have just been one of those days where they couldn't get it clicking.
And they've also been pretty bad on the road compared to how they play at home, so that benefited Wisconsin as well. And usually the vote of confidence usually is a bad thing when it comes to coaching, decisions, but I guess it gave them a boost this week because according to the AD, they're sticking with Fickle for at least another season. So that maybe that was enough to get them to play that well for one day. And it was cool to see some snow football. We haven't seen much of that yet. There's some flurries. And I know there was some in the Notre Dame game as well. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to be sitting through it. I mean, I'll do it. It's not like the worst thing, but it's fun to see on TV and just makes like a little bit more of the, kind of like this cool picture to watch or whatever when it's, blowing and cold as hell, and then you're not out there, you're just in a nice warm living room.
Yeah, I saw some photos from northern Iowa over the weekend. Had a little squall, and Iowa Central was playing in a pretty much whiteout, all kinds of snow on the field, and then they had the junior college cross country championships going on, and they had to run through the damn snow. They were like, some of these people and they've never even seen snow, let alone have to go run through it. So yeah,
and then it's like a championship thing too, where it's like it's not you can be like, we'll just skip this meet, we'll get the next one. Well, no, that's kind of a big deal right now.
Yeah.
That's when you see those guys, or guys and gals both running with freaking this gloves on. You're like, oh, that's keeping you warm. Like, nothing else covered. Got my gloves and my hat though.
Icicles off the face. Yeah, great stuff. Another place, speaking of miserable weather, that was the case in Iowa City. Downpour rain throughout much of the game between Iowa and Oregon, and it turned out to be one hell of a football game. They duked it out. It was one of those where early on, you could tell that Oregon missed some of their early opportunities. Like, here's your chance to get up early in this game, and they just never did it. And part of it was Iowa's mistakes. I mean, on their first two punt attempts, the first one damn near goes over the guy's head, and he barely catches it to get the kickoff. The next one does go over his head. He has to bat it into the end zone, then kicks it out of the end zone just to make sure it's a safety instead of a touchdown, which was smart on his part. Like, honestly, made a good play. But those are the kind of things where, like, you're on the other side you're thinking for Oregon, like, man, you need that. You need those points when you can get them, because you're not always going to get the other team, especially the way Iowa plays, to make those kind of mistakes. And they just didn't take advantage of it early on.
Well, they got away with it, with this, and then against Penn State back when we thought Penn State was good, but it came I guess, haunted them against Indiana when the game they've lost so far this season. And that was just their offensive struggles was unlike Oregon. So that's we've in the past mentioned it, and just thought it was kind of odd that that's one thing that they've had issues here or there, but their offense is one that's always been consistent for them. And then it doesn't always have to be 50, 60, but at least you're scoring in the 30s consistently, and they didn't even break 20 in this game. And of course, it was bad weather and all that, but I did find it kind of humorous there when talk about honor and talent without a clue. It was Booger over there at ESPN was kind of saying, "Oh, the weather's going to bother Oregon." It's like, have you not seen a game in Oregon, or do you not? Are you not familiar with the weather in the Northwest United States? That was like literally what it is there, like every day of the year almost. That's pretty I mean, probably not as cold, but as far as like just like rainy and kind of miserable and mist, that's pretty standard for that part of the country. So I think they didn't play well, probably, or as well as they could have, but I don't think that was weather related. I think probably maybe they I would get a little credit for kind of good defensive scheme against them. And I'm like, man, when they it was kind of funny to see special teams go against the team that's kind of made a living on it there with that last field goal there to win it at the end, because how many times it's like sometimes you got to get a taste of your own medicine. I mean, they scored the touchdown to go ahead late, and the 2-point was close, man.
It was real close.
As close as Indiana was to being out. That's how close he was to being in. And it was a tip ball too. Yeah. So it was like freaking wild. I was like, oh man. And when we first caught, I was like, crap. When he caught, I was like, crap. They're gonna, it's overtime. Obviously overtime's their best bet. I was like, damn, they might actually win this game now, because that was a huge momentum play if he catches that. Of course, he did the best he could. He just couldn't quite get his foot down. But I mean, this is probably could be overstating it, and then he could have said I was stupid afterwards if they would end up losing. But when they showed Dante Moore on the sidelines, like afterwards for the Oregon quarterback, when they scored, like he was friggin' like cold as ice. Like didn't even like just straight face nothing. I was like, they probably got a pretty good chance here. That when they showed him out, I was like, oh man, I was like, he's ready. You know, he to me that shows like someone that like, give me the ball, we're gonna score. Like I want the ball, and that's why I would like in that throw he made on the. It was like basically like a vertical go route base, but it was short. I mean, you couldn't have put it any better than there it was. I was like, oh my gosh, like there's no way they're losing this because like that guy's gonna make a field goal. He's not gonna miss it. But yeah, that was kind of like not to the extent they didn't have to make like 5 or 6 crazy ones, but that throw was on that level of some of those plays Indiana was making in their comeback drive at the end of the game.
Yeah. When I saw that throw. And I saw him come down with it. Because at first you're like, how does the ball get there? Is that possible? I was like, he has it. He caught it. Like, it's just unbelievable throw. Like, nowhere else could he have put that ball and it would have been completed. It was just perfect. Sometimes, you can't do anything about it because the defender was all over him. He was right there. Not his fault. Just an incredible throw and catch. So, they made the plays there to get that done at the end. It was pretty wild, like you said, to see that go the other direction against a team that's usually doing that damage to the other ones. I will say, I mean, I'll give a lot of credit to Iowa for being in that moment. They endured the early kind of like missed opportunities for Oregon, and they finally got enough going. Like they made some plays and started to kind of get the offense clicking a little bit there. That's a nice long drive that they went on to get that touchdown. And get in the end zone, and they took advantage of whatever mistakes Oregon could make along the way to get it done, and a good call on the touchdown run to have Gronowski run it in. I don't know what the hell Oregon defensively was doing because supposedly they had a guy spying him, but he was nowhere near being anywhere close to touching him, let alone tackling him. So that was a mistake on their part. But Iowa did a good job of taking advantage and getting the score. And I mean, in that moment, you're like, man, that's a lot of momentum. That's going to be pretty hard to overcome. But like you said, Moore certainly was ready to go out there and do it. Now, there was one other play that I wanted to bring up because I just thought, and I don't know what the hell was going through his mind because I'm watching the play. It was in the third quarter. Dante Moore had a 49-yard run. They landed on a little draw off the left side, and he just ran out of bounds. Yeah. And it was like, you probably could have scored. I mean, from our angle, obviously, you're seeing the pursuit, so it's different from that. I get it, looking at it that way. And I know that quarterbacks are always going to be cautious about themselves, and it's, rain and all that nonsense. But, I mean, he could have made an attempt to cut back to the middle of the field, or even just to try to keep running straight, it seemed to me, to see if he could break that last tackle to score. And it turned out they ended up fumbling the ball on that drive and didn't get any points out of it. So it's like, I don't know. I sometimes just I don't know what's going through a guy's head.
Well, and I don't know if they're reading too much into it, but the only thing I saw that I guess could make sense, but I don't know that it was the case because he finished the game was they said he was kind of looked a little bit, little gimpy or
maybe.
Pulled out. Yeah. I guess it could possibly be true. And maybe he came into the game with an injury and it was fine. And then all of a sudden a hamstring or something flares up when you're running. But I know I was like, he's gone. And then all of a sudden he just kind of veers toward the sideline. Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, that was, and who knows, maybe at that point they were confident. They thought they were going to put him away and he felt that way too. And I'm not saying they told him to run out of bounds, but in his mind, he's like, oh, we got it. I mean, cause it wasn't pretty good. I mean, I was the biggest play of the drive, obviously, but they didn't. I mean, you're in a good spot at that point because you got a first down deep in their territory. So maybe he's like, I will run it a couple times or find somebody. But that was definitely curious, and I guess the only thing that'd be talked about more if it wasn't for the whatever you want to call it, the post game interaction between the Oregon team and the whatever fans in that section of the stadium where they're going and they're waving at them, blowing them kisses, and they're throwing freaking whatever drinks at him. It's just I mean, at some point it's you just can't you gotta have a little bit security and stuff. You can't just get out. You can't even go over there because nothing good's gonna happen. And I mean, someone comes up and what are you gonna say? Good game? I don't know. I just think it's a bad thing on both ways. So.
Yeah, not smart.
I mean, I'm not against trash talk, but I'm I don't know, nothing. That's to me a little bit more than just that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, but wild game. Definitely was a crazy finish there. Certainly. I mean that does take Iowa out of their outside. Thought that they could maybe get into the playoff and the championship scenario. That's done now. But I mean, this is also an indicative of what's gone on for Oregon all season long. I mean, like you alluded to earlier, they haven't necessarily impressed anybody at any time overwhelmingly. They've won these close games, in some of these ones but we've come to find out later, like, I don't know, was that team like that good? I mean, that was a good win, but I mean, you probably could have done a lot better, and that certainly seems to be the case for them so far. We'll see if they ever put it all together by the end of the year.
Well, we'll definitely find out with, advantage you're at home, obviously. I don't think the Friday night game with Minnesota, but then you got USC and Washington to end the year, so the old Pac-12 finish to the season, but they'll find out pretty quick there what they got. And then also, I mean, Iowa's got to rebound real quick because they got go out to the West Coast here. And I mean, whatever it is, I mean, they've got flaws like everybody else, but man, USC has that's a hell of an offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they certainly can put a punch.
There's gonna be no rain you got to worry about there there's no easy narratives here. You got to do a little research in the numbers there, but it should be a fun matchup when you got to figure the strength of Iowa, still their defense against USC, strength of their offense. So it's kind of what the games you like to watch is strength for strength. Yeah.
One of the game that I thought was a fun finish just because the way it played out. And I mean, certainly the game I think was a little bit surprising to some folks. Vanderbilt goes to overtime to beat Auburn. And for really, I mean, a lot of accounts, Auburn controlled a good chunk of the game. They were ahead for a long time. Vanderbilt had to rally. But, again, too, that's kind of what they do. If you're in a tough spot, you expect Diego Pavia to come through, and he did again. I mean, they made the plays there. Once they got the touchdown in overtime, I just thought, okay, they're going to win it now. And then they did get the stop. Also helped me out because I'd packaged that as part of my little late day save me parlay. And they were laying 6 at the time, and it's like, oh man, that's always a hairy deal where you get to overtime, and it's like you need the touchdown and the other team not to score. But they made it happen. So thanks Commodores. But yeah, I mean, still a good win for them, but definitely didn't go the way I think they probably wanted to. It's been a rough kind of couple of weeks for them to get back on track, I think.
Yeah, it was surprising to see it was that close, and I guess typically it'd be the other way where, in years past, Auburn's holding off a pesky Vanderbilt, but now the roles have reversed. But I mean, I know there's, different situation there. But, that was one of the scores you first see and you're like, oh man, okay, Auburn might give him a run, and then it just keeps going like that, And I mean, Vanderbilt really had to freaking rally just to get to that point. So I guess you credit to them for being able to, because even last week against Texas, they ended up falling, but they had a hell of a rally then. Alabama's about the only game where they didn't really have that, that kind of go on that big run. Because even against, I mean, not like a big run, but at least we're able to like seize the momentum and kind of make like a rally or just like pull away one way or the other. So yeah, that's, I mean, still in a pretty good spot there, and I guess Tennessee to end the season will be pretty interesting there for them to kind of. I mean, of course, I guess 2 losses, playoffs not totally out of the cards for them when you're talking got the ESPN propaganda machine behind you. So if they end up winning their last couple of games here, who knows? They might be getting in there as well.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we also like to, of course, recap the teams that we follow. You already talked about a little late night kick there, a little after dark there from Nebraska out in L.A. I mean, good for somebody to show up at the Rose Bowl, right, and watch some football. I actually have a classmate, an old high school classmate that happens to be stationed out there right now for the military, and he got his kids together and went. They're Nebraska fans, so he went out to watch the game. So that was cool. But yeah, Huskers get it done, 28-21. Your thoughts on the game, SJ?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was first off, freshman quarterback getting his first start, from the opening snap. So you don't really know what to expect. Of course, the talent thought was there, but it's a little bit, like what's the saying that the backup quarterback's always like the most popular guy in town. Everyone's like, we got to go with the backup, And last week was a struggle, but I mean that's putting in a tough spot against a good team in USC. It's kind of hard just to be like, oh man, you got to be ready to go because there's no game plan there. It's just you got to run the plays you think you can run. And I don't know. I think maybe in some instances did a little bit of a disservice to him. But this week, I think they definitely had the game plan built around what he's good at and what he can do and how he can help your team. So it looked pretty good. And then, I mean, freaking Emmett Johnson just like becoming a monster here. Like, I mean, I always thought he was pretty good, but he's even some of the things I'm like, man, like that, even that screen pass, I don't know if he caught it, but I was like, they didn't look like there was much sideline there.
Yeah.
And then like 56 yards later, it's a touchdown or whatever it was. So, the only thing was, I guess, a little bit to be nitpicky. I was like, it should have been like there was a couple things I think I wish they could have pulled away there. Because it was 28-7 at one point, and they were pretty close to getting one more score, but had a couple of miscues there. Ends up being like a 3rd and 10 or 11, and I don't know if this was checked into or this was the call, but they end up running a draw on 3rd and long. No. Don't get hardly anything in punt, and then kind of USC gets it, or UCLA, gets it, and then kind of gets a little bit closer. But I will say, even though when they got down 7, their scoring drives were taking like forever, like 7, 8 minutes, 9-minute drives, which it's kind of not good for your defense, but at the same time, like they would do pretty decent on 1st and 2nd down. It was, Nico would go on some crazy scramble on 3rd down or make a hell of a throw. Cause that's the thing. Like, yeah, I mean, people had a lot of fun with him and he transferred and, all that crap and kind of did his own, he didn't do himself any favors as far as like public opinion. But when it comes to like his actual talent and ability, he's still a pretty damn good quarterback. Because some of those plays he were making, I was like, and there was a guy there, he just freaking juked him, or there's a corner and a safety, and he fits it in the window, and he just, that. So sometimes you just gotta be like, damn it, we had the right play, they just did better than us. So that was, that kind of, they gave him a little bit, not I don't say gave him, but there was a few chances where I was like, man, get off the field here, and it's gonna get ugly. But he was just able to make a couple plays to keep him in it. And so to say that, to be like, I didn't really feel like. I know it was a close game, 7-point final, but as far as like feeling like we're going to lose, like I didn't actually really have that feeling ever. Still in control of the game. You get up by 21 points, and for them to come back, they needed about 5 or 6 quarters and there's only 4.
Yeah.
So you'd be pretty good there. Just it would take them too long to score, and then when we needed to run, if we just ran the ball and you get 7-8 yards of carry, like Emmett was, that last drive, he got 9 yards on like every first down. They're calling timeouts to stop the clock. I was like, it's 2nd and 1.
Yeah,
that's not but they had to.
Yeah.
But it's like you're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna stop times for 1 yard. But so I was pretty good. Getting 7-3, I feel pretty good about that. I think I had him about there honestly when we did our preseason picks. Maybe I might have been 8-2. There might be that Minnesota was the one I didn't see coming. But this one, I think I expected to be a pretty close win when we did our. Preseason their forecast there. Of course, I thought UCLA would be a little bit better. Yeah, 2014 is what I picked for the, when we started the season. So, 6-point win, 7-point win. So, can't be too crazy. I did think they would be better. But they still have good players as far as the talents there. It's just they probably need to get somebody in there. And that freaking rug that Neuheisel had, I didn't realize his hair was that long. Did you see that one? It was like before a 3rd down play, and I don't know if he'd been like, scratch his head, but it was all freaking disheveled. That's a pretty good meme that's been going around. But yeah, no, I'm happy with the win. Got a couple tough games here to end the season, but as far as progressing and moving forward, I think they've done a pretty good job compared to, especially I think kind of on that track of getting better every season with this head coach in place.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, as far as like defense is concerned, sometimes when they're out there that long, you don't love that because you get wore down, but it also tells you that they're making it pretty damn hard for the other team to get the job done. So, yeah, that's always kind of a good sign at the same time, and thought that was the case. Yeah, Emmett Johnson is outrageous right now. The guy's definitely on a heater. Give him the ball when you can, and that's certainly going to be a good recipe for them. And it helps a hell of a lot too when you have a freshman quarterback out there to have somebody like that to give the ball to. So, that's see what kind of finish he can have to the year, because he's certainly playing really, really well right now.
You don't want to lose your starter, obviously, but I do think knowing that he's out, you can. It's not like, when we come back this week, then you got to kind of game plan or, come up to 2 different plans. Now it's like, well, we can just focus on, who we got and do it the best we can there. So I do think if you're going to lose them, I guess, the season ending it does in that way at least benefits you, where it's like, well, this is what you got. And so now you can start, and, bye week actually comes at a good time. You get an extra week of preparation here for Penn State.
Yeah. Going to the game that I was watching in the afternoon and did not see this coming one bit. Iowa State goes to Fort Worth and beats TCU 20-17 to get to 6-4 on the year. Just one of those games where you just you feel good for the team. You feel good for the staff. You know, they've obviously had their lull and lumps here these last few weeks, and everybody getting pretty down about the entire situation, which, you know, in some cases rightfully so. They didn't meet the expectations. They didn't play the way they were supposed to. But given the way that the injury report looked going into the game, you probably didn't have a hell of a lot of confidence if you were an Iowa State fan you're going to win this one. You know, they talked about I think they even said it at one point during the broadcast. You know, obviously they'd had the two corners that were out for the season right away at the beginning of the season. They got 6 safeties that are injured right now. I don't know how you overcome that.
Usually you don't. That's about as many safeties as you have. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
They start moving linebackers to safety.
Yeah, they're
probably
playing wherever. Yeah. Some extra corner, or here you wide out. You look like you can run around. Go do that. But you know, a couple guys even got hurt during the game too. They had a lineman go down. Had a linebacker that was out. Whether it just got out last week for the season. So, you know, a lot to overcome, and they went out and just played. They just played their butts off. The guys that were out there and had their chance. Like, I was really impressed with the way that they played at the line of scrimmage, because I didn't think that they'd be able to dominate like that. And it does give me a lot of positivity for what could be if you do have that full lineup and that full team, because they did, in the trenches, they look like the better squad, and that's a good thing to know. When you're talking conference football. And yeah, went and played, you know, made a big play in special teams. That was awesome. You know, a guy that's a walk-on that turned a punt back for a touchdown to get them the go-ahead score. And then they made the plays defensively to seal it up. So, you know, just happy for the team, you know, happy for Matt Campbell too, to kind of quiet things down a little bit. You know, he talked a lot positively during the week about, it feels like they're right there. And of course, I think sometimes that rubs fans the wrong way when things aren't going well too. I mean, I get where he's coming from, because he's definitely one of those guys that doesn't want to show any, you know, he's not going to give you an inkling of oh, this is what's wrong, or I feel really bad about this right now. He's just trying to keep the positivity up, or the mindset, I think, for his team. But maybe it was on a little bit of something, and then they rose to the moment and got a nice win. So, yeah, I mean, they got a chance to finish the season strong with a couple of lesser opponents. So overall, at least it's a strong way to end the year, even though you had your disappointing letdown during the middle of it.
Well, not even just the injuries, but then you down 17-6 in the fourth quarter, just having that, you know, the mentality of being able to come back. And man, that dude was cooking on that punt return. I don't know where they found him at, but he had some freaking wheels, because I just had a bunch of games going, happened to look down, whoever the announcer started going crazy, and I was like, didn't they say it's a walk-on? Is that what
he's a walk-on. Yeah,
that's what I thought, because I was like, man, someone might have to maybe got him a track scholarship or something, but he could move. That was a interesting game, because it wasn't looking good, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get that touchdown, and then the punt return wasn't long after that. It flipped real quick, but yeah, that's the, I don't know, that's the wackiness of the college football. It's like a couple games that you didn't end up, you know, getting. How the hell did we lose that? And then you're like, we're not expecting much, and then you end up winning.
Yeah. What is it? Yeah, because like you say, prognostication, this was one of the games before the year that I picked to lose. Just because I thought this is a tough one going on the road against what I thought would be a pretty good TCU team. And they played okay at times. I mean, they were still in the mix, honestly, to be in the title game, the way the ridiculous thing.
2 losses, yeah.
So, but, yeah, you never know. I mean, that's the beauty of college football, I guess. Your team can surprise you sometimes, and, yeah, they certainly did. Yeah, that's interesting that kid, I happened to be able to call a game or two of his, because he was in the same district for a while as Atlantic, playing over in Adele at ADM. So, pretty cool for him to get that opportunity in that moment. And yeah, maybe he can do some more things down the road for sure. I did want to bring up one play, and I had to go back and say, I didn't see this one at the moment live. I missed it. I had to go back and watch it. But there was and I guess this is just a commentary on replay in general, because we all know how we love that sometimes. Iowa State got called for a roughing the passer penalty on like a late hit out of bounds type situation, or I don't know what they ended up calling it. Maybe it wasn't even roughing, but it was unnecessary roughness or whatever it was. But the linebacker that ran into the quarterback was like exploded from behind by a TCU player, and that's what forced him into the quarterback. So it's like, is there not a way, if we're going to sit down and dissect all this crap, like splitting hairs on what's what, can we not look at that and be like, okay, that's obviously not his fault? Like, can we just make that not a penalty when we see it and it's obvious?
Well, how many times have you seen him pick up the flag like on a punt return because the guy was blocked into him for like a kick catch interference thing? It's the same concept. I did catch that because they, were saying like, oh, this bad personal foul. And I thought maybe he just, hit him early and they called it. But I was like, you can clearly see him getting blocked into him. But that's the kind of the frustrating or the annoying thing about this replay thing. It's how it's so, pick and choose what you can do and what you can't do. Same goes back to everything I say every time. Is like, the whole point is to get it right. So there shouldn't be any, parameters on what you can or can't do if you're trying to get it right.
Yeah.
Like, what if you see something, then you can change it,
Yep.
Unless, of course, judgment's a different thing, but that's not, I don't know if that's, I guess, to me, that when you can see someone getting pushed, that takes the judgment out of it. It's kind of black and white.
Yeah. When everybody's watching it saying, oh, yeah, I see that. Like, probably should be the way we call it. But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll get there someday, but it's frustrating when you see that as a fan of a team especially. But, bad deal there. But, yeah, cool win for ISU. Good win for Nebraska. So, I guess, overall, we had a nice little happy weekend there. So, moving on into what's coming up here for next week. We won't have this segment next week because you talked about a little bye week to rest up for you. I got the same for Iowa State. They're off as well before they play Kansas at home. So got a little off week as far as our teams are concerned. Other games that are on the schedule, honestly, it's a little bit of a dud as far as like high quality, like, ranked matchups, so to speak, or whatever. But I do see a few that I think are going to be pretty fun games. It might be a little bit intriguing. You mentioned that, and I don't expect this, I guess, to be that exciting, but it is one of those possible sneaky Friday night things with Oregon going back home after that close game against Iowa, against Minnesota. You just never know, if they don't take that game seriously, they could be a little bit of trouble there.
Obviously, you've had some decent success recently, but is this Minnesota, like, they have like this obsession with playing on Friday night?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, like, when a lot of with schools, just this, but more familiar with like Nebraska, like when they play on Fridays, it's like most of the like local high schools, and I don't know if you've had many games on Friday night. Friday night was Iowa State, but I'm sure Iowa's playing on a Friday or two.
Yeah,
it's almost like they, kind of throws things off, do typical schedule of football, high school football Friday night, and then college on Saturday.
Yeah, it
almost is more of like kind of pisses people off and sets, kind of isn't it like but maybe it's different in Minnesota. Maybe they don't care. I don't know. It seems like they're like, who wants to play on Friday night? They're like, we will.
Yeah.
Like, every week, like this. Seriously, they've had this at least their third game on Friday night.
I think you're right.
I know we played them on Friday night, and Nebraska did, and then also they played USC on Friday night. They might have another one in there. I don't know, but at least three.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
and they might have opened on a Thursday, like against like Buffalo or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right there too. Yeah,
so maybe their high school team's playing Saturday. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what the hell they got going on there. That's a good point. There is the one big game early on ABC's Notre Dame at Pitt could be an intriguing, fun little matchup there. I'm sure a lot of folks will have a little bit of an eyeball on that. Other games that are on the schedule: Oklahoma at Alabama, maybe intriguing. I don't know. I mean, my initial
for the
thought
fact that they just haven't played very much.
Yeah, true.
And you're like, two schools. There's some history there in the helmet deal, but could be a game where could be some intrigue there, or maybe Oklahoma, finally puts one together here this season.
Yeah. You already mentioned Iowa going out to USC, so see if they can bounce back from that disappointing loss. That's a tough spot, though. I mean, man, you're coming off a game like that where like you just get gut wrenched, and now you got to fly across the country. to play a pretty good team. I don't like how that sets up for them. I'll be interested to see. I see USC right now about a touchdown favorite in that game at the moment. And then later on in the day, you've got one that's kind of this game is interesting to me, and people might say that I'm nuts, but Florida at Ole Miss. I mean, if there ever was a trap game for Ole Miss, this is it. I mean, Florida, and I don't know what the hell happened to them this last week. They got doors blown off by Kentucky. So, I mean, as far as all-time lows are concerned, that's where they are. But at the same time, that's the way they've been, though, in a few of these other weeks. Like, you expect them to get killed, and when they play a good team, and then they show up. So, I don't know. That one could be a little bit dicey, I think, there for the old Rebs if they don't pay attention.
They intrigued me on that one. Maybe what back office meetings are going on between Florida boosters and Lane Kiffin. That might be he might be interviewing, while they're blowing them out by 40 points. That could add to the intrigue that you got with the game itself. So that's something to watch there.
Does he leave on the team plane to the other university?
Another tarmac incident here.
And then in the evening, you got Texas at Georgia. Obviously, names and ranking would make that one an intriguing contest. I mean, to me, if the real Georgia shows up, then maybe it shouldn't be that exciting. But who knows? I mean, Texas has been playing better as of late. Could be an interesting contest. And then you've also got TCU at BYU is a little bit interesting too. Two teams very disappointed, obviously, from last week. How do they respond and bounce back? Because honestly, BYU still got a lot to play for if they can respond, but kind of have to do it now.
I got a little bit of a sicko alert here for you, and that's even the big noon kickoff. So I guess maybe that takes it out of the sicko world. But Michigan playing Northwestern, they're playing at Wrigley Field, no less. And it's right now at 10.5 is what I'm seeing. I think this might be one of those days Northwestern just plays out of their minds and hangs around. So if it stays like that, it's early in the week. We'll have a couple days here before we get the video out for you guys for the plays of the week. But I got that definitely starred, circled, asterisk, whatever, because I like that 10.5. That's for a Michigan team that hasn't really blown many teams out this year. It's kind of been, at least offensively, a little bit ugly. Coming off a 5-point win against Purdue and at home. I think Northwestern's got a shot here to at least keep it close and cover that number.
Yeah, I like how you're thinking there for sure. All right, and be paying attention. We will have those picks, of course, out for you later on in the week. So if you would subscribe, get the notifications on the YouTube channel, you will get those picks coming at you in video form later this week. Of course, we also share that information and our graphics up online. On Twitter at CherokeeCP at SJM Bets. Those are the handles there, so you can follow us along. And then also, if you would like, subscribe, share the podcast, available on all the major platforms. Just search up Every Day We're Covering, and you'll find it, including our host at Spotify. We'll save this topic, but I want to tease it here for next time. Another failed venture for the old ESPN folks, as they announced this week that the ESPN Bet platform is going to go away. They're ending their partnership with Penn Gaming after less than 2 years of what was supposed to be a 10-year deal. And now they've made a little sign-up with DraftKings, apparently. So we're going to dive a little deeper into that, I think, here next time, just because we've gone a little long already here. But certainly an interesting development, SJ. Not much that the old mothership touches lately is turning to gold.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about with the on-air talent, kind of knowing who you are and being yourself. That to me, that's what this boils down to. Is you're not a bookmaker. You're not have no history in the gaming industry. So just kind of stay in your lane and know who you are and do that. So yeah, they've made some interesting choices as of late. I guess this adds to it. But man, screwing up $1 billion deal, that's a whole nother thing. But I mean, it's when you go into business with the bar stool, it kind of seemed like what are we doing here, and then it ends in this way. And I know they're going to have some sponsorship type thing going forward, or basically like a partnership. So that's probably what they need to do to begin with. But yeah, that's even for someone that's as accomplished as that is, it's still kind of embarrassing and just like, man, you got all these resources and all these people and everything, then you still screw up something like this, where most people are just throwing money, you know, like, oh, this, you know, whatever, like,
Yeah.
pick a thing and bet. It's not like you don't have to convince many people to throw a friendly wager here and there.
Yeah. It's it's definitely gone about as sideways as is possible on both ends. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at both entities that are really kind of screwing this deal. So very interesting. Yeah, so we'll dive more into that here next time around. But definitely an interesting topic, and it has more to it, I think, moving forward down the road as far as how that world is going to shape and change here as we move forward. That's what we have for you here this week, though, as we get ready. Again, pay attention for those picks coming out later in the week as we get you ready for another fun weekend, hopefully, of college football. That's S.J. Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another round of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.